Greetings, Councillor. Admitted to the bar in 2011, you initially worked in the law firm where you completed your internship. And presently, you have your own firm, and your address here at the Caen Memorial on the defence of the right to freely and publicly choose one's philosophical and religious conviction. Once upon a time in Russia, Alexei Koptev. Mr. President, members of the jury, ladies and gentlemen. A 15-month trial. A first verdict condemns 7 individuals to heavy fines, 4 to prison terms. The guilty verdict is appealed, and this first judgment is overturned. The case is brought before another judge in January 2015. An 11-month trial begins. 60 days of hearings. The Washington Post referred to it as one of the most important anti-extremist trials in Russia of recent years. The verdict, the 30th of November 2015. The accused are pronounced guilty of extremist activity in violation of the law of the Russian Republic. The 4 guilty ringleaders are condemned to 5.5 years, and the 12 accomplices given hefty fines, suspended sentences by order of the court. But what crime did they commit? Indoctrination of young teenagers in order to recruit them into a terrorist ring? No. Organization of subversive, heinous propaganda? No. They held a religious service in a private home in Taganrog, a coastal town in the Gulf of Taganrog, near the Ukrainian border, because their own place of worship had been confiscated. They read the Bible. They prayed together. Risky behavior indeed in today's Russia, at least for a Jehovah's Witness. Among those convicted was Alexei Koptev, 7 years retired, who in his earlier days had received official recognition for 38 years of service in the famous Krasny Hotel Chic Hotel, the pride of the town of Taganrog. Alexei Koptev, an ordinary grandfather whose sole wish was to continue living his modest existence as an honest, peaceful citizen, was spied on, covertly filmed, then arrested and found guilty of extremist activities in violation of Russian federal law. This law, adopted following the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack in response to the growing threat of terrorism, has had its application systematically widened again and again, so that today it can be used to censor any religious community considered undesirable in Russia. Jehovah's Witnesses have paid the price. True, the Jehovah's Witnesses have never much been liked in the ex-Soviet Union, but one might have thought that their situation would have improved following the European Court of Human Rights decision dated the 10th of June 2010, which directed the Russians to re-establish the registration of the witnesses in Moscow as a cultural organization, the status of which had been lost with their dissolution as an illegal entity in 2004. The European High Court loudly proclaimed that the witnesses had the right to conduct in a peaceful manner their public religious activities and ordered the Russia to pay damages for having violated their fundamental rights. They had to wait until 27th of May 2015 for the Russian Minister of Justice to conform to this directive. But this was a mere formality, a political gesture to placate the international community. Because since then, the Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia have had the unpleasant feeling of going back in time, to the days before the 80s. During the era of the Soviet Union, they were imprisoned in their thousands for their religious opinions. In 1990, they were all released, and each ex-prisoner received an official statement of rehabilitation, formally recognizing that they were never enemies of the state, but rather innocent victims of a totalitarian regime that is now part of the past. 25 years later, the shadow, increasingly less resolved, seemed to be heavily encroaching on the freedom of thought and freedom of religion in Russia. Government crackdowns in places of worship during religious services, confiscation of property, spying, covert surveillance, house searches, seizing of homes, the confiscation of an ever-growing list of banned religious literature considered extremist according to a criteria that remains undefined, denial of access to their official website, first in the world, the website being authorized everywhere else, importation of Bibles blocked, even the Russian Synodal Bible, which is widely used in the country by other Christian denominations. The witnesses are fighting back against this ever-increasing and ever-intensifying oppression. To date, they have filed no less than 28 appeals before the European Court of Human Rights. The Parliament Assembly of the Council of Europe has called for the Russians to cease applying a law destined for extreme activities against their religious community in general and Jehovah's Witnesses in particular. The 31st of March 2015, the United Nations Human Rights Council recommended again that the Russians revise the federal law to counteract terrorism to stipulate a precise definition, including an element to violence or hatred, in order to avoid the arbitrary application of this law to the wide-scale censorship of freedom of religion. But the Russians could not care less. For Alexei Koptev and his 15 unfortunate compatriots, they are beyond mere threats. Even with suspended sentences, their criminal status is stamped indelibly on their foreheads, the stigmatism of which risks spreading to the 800 other witnesses of the town of Taganrog and on to their 175,000 Russian brethren. Of course, they were not obliged to serve this sentence if they ceased practicing their religion. Renounce his faith. Alexei might well consider it. After all, at 71 years of age, with precarious health and previous heart attack, why subject himself to the stress of the long legal procedures? Is a Bible conversation with your friends really worth running the risk of being charged with further infringements, new prosecutions, more sentences, this time possibly incurring actual time behind bars? But Alexei doesn't hesitate. He repeats that he's done nothing illegal and appeals the decision, as do the entire body of his religious brethren convicted by his side. On 17th of March 2016, the guilty verdict was confirmed by the Regional Court of Rostov. Alexei has affirmed throughout the trial that he will continue to practice his religion, that there is no reason to limit his faith, nor any cause to be ashamed of it. The warning of John Paul Marat is clear. In the name of the legal attire, I here wear, I will finish by paraphrasing a quotation that seems falsely attributed to Voltaire. I may not agree with what you say, but I will fight to the death that you have the right to say it. And you, how far will you fight?
For the update, information on Alexis, go to jw.org and Russian imprisonments. Thank you very much.